Journalists, on the whole, are chained to keyboards in offices, and they recycle second-hand information from Newswire and from the public relations industry. And neither of these sources of information is reliable, but both of those sources are recycled, largely unchecked, into what we laughingly call news.
Police in Jersey have raised the grim possibility of more human remains being discovered at a former children's home.
For months, there's been a running story about the police searching the children's home in Jersey and supposedly finding evidence of children being killed and buried there. Police make a strategic PR decision that they want this to be a big story so that they can send out a signal to victims of abuse to trust them and to get in touch. So they've got their PR motive. Right there on day one, they find a little bit of something in the ground. Their experts say, well, that could be a bit of bone from a child's skull. We're not sure. The newspapers take that and they convert partial remains of a child into variously a child's skull, the partial remains of a child's skeleton, an entire skeleton, and the skeleton of a girl.
Dramatic developments tonight as police uncover a secret cellar.
And a number of bone fragments, some of them cut, some of them burnt. The police believe that is all that remains of at least 4 children.
It then turned out that the tiny bit of bone was in fact coconut shell. You have a huge growth in the scale and cleverness of the PR industry. And so as journalists get weaker and weaker in performing their job, the PR industry moves in and fills the gap. And there's a brilliant example of this with the NatWest 3, who are these 3 businessmen who worked for a subsidiary of the National Westminster Bank, who got caught up in the aftermath of the collapse of Enron. Within months, evidence is surfacing that the NatWest 3 are embroiled in corrupt and illegal activities. By 2002, the FBI have charged them with criminal offences, and the press have clearly established that these 3 are bad guys, corrupt and womanizers and greedy. But there is a single fact in there, which is that they're going to be extradited to the United States with a new piece of law, which is not very fair. So on that slender basis, the PR company who were hired by the NatWest 3 just focused the story on the unjust law. And at that moment, suddenly, the whole angle changes. So almost everybody across the entire political spectrum in the House of Commons and the House of Lords was drawn in by this PR campaign to support it.
I have no idea of whether these men are guilty or innocent. But one thing does seem to me to be clear, that on the question of jurisdiction,